Welcome to the Buddhism Podcast. Today we're exploring how mindfulness can transform your relationship with sleep, one of the most precious yet often elusive experiences in our busy lives. My own journey with this practice began during a particularly stressful period when sleep became my nightly battleground. I'd lie awake reviewing the day's events, planning tomorrow's challenges, or simply watching the minutes tick by while calculating how little rest I'd function on the next day. Perhaps you know that particular form of midnight mathematics. If I fall asleep now, I'll get 5 hours and 23 minutes of sleep. What finally changed my relationship with sleep wasn't stronger sleeping pills or more elaborate bedtime routines, but the simple yet profound practices of Buddhist mindfulness that we'll explore today. These approaches didn't just help me fall asleep faster, they transformed my entire relationship with rest, turning bedtime from a source of anxiety into an opportunity for deeper peace. The need for these practices has never been more urgent. Studies show that 50 to 70 million Americans struggle with sleep problems, with insomnia rates increasing dramatically during recent years of global uncertainty. Beyond the nighttime discomfort, chronic sleep disruption is linked to everything from compromised immunity to increased risk of depression and heart disease. We're facing what sleep researchers call a global sleep crisis. What makes the Buddhist approach to sleep uniquely valuable is that it addresses not just the physical aspects of sleep, but the mental and emotional dimensions as well. While conventional sleep advice focuses on external factors like room temperature or mattress quality, all important, Buddhist mindfulness addresses how we relate to the very experience of sleep itself. Today I'll share 5 mindfulness practices that can transform your sleep: a body scan for physical relaxation, breath awareness for mental settling, a letting go practice for daily concerns, an approach for working with difficult emotions, and guidance for creating a mindful sleep ritual. Each draws from traditional Buddhist teachings while being accessible to everyone, regardless of spiritual background. What's particularly wonderful about these approaches is that they work with your brain's natural sleep mechanisms rather than fighting against them. Where trying harder to sleep often backfires, mindfulness creates the conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. It's like the difference between chasing sleep and allowing sleep to find you. A student in our meditation group described this shift beautifully. After struggling with insomnia for years, she said, "I realized I was approaching sleep like everything else in my life, as another task to achieve and optimize. Mindfulness taught me how to surrender instead of strive. And paradoxically, that's when sleep returned." Let's explore how Buddhist wisdom can help you find that same surrender, transforming your nights from exhausting struggle into restful ease. And if you happen to feel a bit drowsy as we explore these practices together, well, I'll take that as a sign of success rather than a commentary on my teaching style. Before we dive into specific practices, let's explore how Buddhist psychology understands sleep challenges, a perspective that's surprisingly refreshing compared to our modern, often mechanical view of sleep problems. In Buddhist psychology, sleep disruption isn't seen as merely a physiological glitch to be fixed, but as a natural reflection of our overall relationship with life and mind. The Buddha recognized that the same mental patterns that create suffering during the day don't magically disappear when we pull up the covers. Our busy, judging, planning, remembering mind, what Buddhist texts call papancha, or proliferating thought, continues its activity regardless of what time the clock shows. What's fascinating is that Buddhist texts specifically mention sleep difficulties as a common challenge for practitioners. Even 2.600 years ago, people were lying awake worrying. The Buddha offered specific guidance for restless nights, suggesting that the approach to peaceful sleep isn't through forcing it but through cultivating a particular quality of awareness that allows natural rest to emerge. This points to a profound paradox at the heart of sleep struggles. The more desperately we try to make ourselves sleep, the more elusive sleep becomes. It's like trying to catch a butterfly. The harder you chase, the more it flutters away. Sleep, by its very nature, cannot be achieved through effort. It can only be allowed. Modern sleep science beautifully confirms this Buddhist insight. Research shows that sleep effort, that tense, frustrated attempting to make yourself fall asleep, actually creates physiological arousal that prevents the sleep transition. What sleep researchers now call paradoxical intention, purposely staying awake rather than trying to sleep, often works better than effortful attempts at sleeping. This perfectly aligns with the Buddhist approach of non-striving awareness. What's particularly helpful about mindfulness for sleep is that it addresses both aspects of sleep problems, falling asleep and staying asleep. For sleep onset issues, mindfulness creates conditions for the natural transition into sleep by reducing the hyperarousal that keeps us alert. For middle-of-night awakenings, mindfulness helps us relate to wakefulness with less reactivity, often allowing us to return to sleep more easily or, at minimum, to rest peacefully even while awake. Now, a word about realistic expectations. Mindfulness isn't a magic sleep pill. It won't instantly knock you out like strong medication might. What it offers instead is a transformed relationship with the entire experience of rest. Some nights, these practices will help you fall asleep quickly. Other nights, you might remain awake, but with a quality of restful, peaceful wakefulness rather than agitated insomnia. Either way, you're supporting your nervous system's capacity for restoration. I remember a meditation student who came to me frustrated because she was still awake after practicing mindfulness. "But how did you feel while you were awake?" I asked. "Well, surprisingly peaceful, actually," she replied. This captures the subtle but important shift from fighting against wakefulness to finding restful awareness regardless of whether sleep has arrived yet. Buddhist teachings recognize that different people need different amounts of sleep, and that sleep needs change throughout our lives. There's no rigid ideal to achieve. Instead, the emphasis is on discovering what genuine rest means for you right now, which may differ from cultural expectations or even your own sleep patterns from earlier phases of life. What I find most reassuring about the Buddhist approach is its profound acceptance of the full spectrum of human experience, including sleepless nights, rather than viewing insomnia as a failure or seeing midnight awakenings as something wrong. We can learn to be present with these experiences with kindness and curiosity. This shift in perspective, from fixing sleep to being with our experience skillfully, often makes all the difference. With this foundation in mind, let's explore our first practical technique, a mindful body scan specifically designed to support the transition to sleep by releasing physical tension and creating conditions for natural rest. Let's begin exploring practical techniques with one of the most effective mindfulness practices for sleep, the body scan. This simple yet powerful practice has its roots in ancient Buddhist traditions like the Satipatthana Sutta, where the Buddha taught systematic awareness of physical sensations as a pathway to present moment awareness. What makes the body scan particularly effective for sleep is that it addresses a fundamental cause of sleep difficulty, physical tension we're often completely unaware of. During our busy days, we accumulate tension in our muscles. Like a computer running too many programs in the background, we might mentally decide it's time to sleep. But our body hasn't received the message, it's still holding the day's stress in tightened shoulders, a clenched jaw, or a furrowed brow. The sleep-focused body scan creates a gentle pathway of relaxation through your entire physical system, allowing your body to receive the clear message that it's safe to power down for the night. Here's how to practice it. Begin by lying comfortably in bed. In whatever position you typically fall asleep, take a few deep breaths to signal to your body that this is time for rest. Then, bring your awareness to your feet. Notice any sensations present, perhaps tingling, temperature, pressure where they contact the mattress, or perhaps no distinct sensation at all. The key is simply noticing without trying to change anything. As you breathe naturally, imagine your exhales carrying any tension out of your feet, allowing them to become heavy and comfortable. There's nothing to do, nothing to fix, just gentle awareness and allowing. Then gradually move your attention upward through your entire body, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, hips, lower back, abdomen, chest, upper back, shoulders, arms, hands, neck, and finally your head and face. With each area, simply notice what's there and allow any tension to soften with your exhales. Pay particular attention to areas that commonly hold sleep-disrupting tension. The jaw is a surprising repository of stress. Many of us clench our teeth without realizing it. The shoulders often creep up toward the ears during stressful days. The space between the eyebrows frequently holds a subtle furrow. These areas especially benefit from mindful attention and gentle release. What distinguishes this practice from simple relaxation techniques is the quality of awareness you bring to it. We're not aggressively trying to force relaxation, which paradoxically creates more tension. Instead, we're cultivating curious, kind attention to what's already happening in the body, which naturally allows tension to release, like ice melting in the warmth of awareness. This non-striving quality is essential for sleep preparation. Notice if you're trying to relax, with a subtle undertone of frustration or effort. If so, see if you can shift to simply being with your body as it is, allowing relaxation to emerge naturally rather than forcing it. Of course, the mind will wander during this practice. That's completely normal. When you notice your attention has drifted to thoughts about tomorrow's meeting or tonight's dinner, simply note, thinking, and gently return to body sensations. This mental noting helps interrupt the thought spirals that often keep us awake. What's happening physiologically during the body scan is quite remarkable. As you bring mindful awareness to different parts of your body, several sleep-supporting shifts occur. Your parasympathetic nervous system activates, initiating the relaxation response. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to decrease. Muscle tension releases. Your heart rate and blood pressure gently lower. All these changes create ideal conditions for the natural transition into sleep. Let's try a brief version of this practice together right now. We'll move more quickly than you would when practicing for sleep, but this will give you a taste of the technique. Take a comfortable breath and bring your awareness to your feet. Notice any sensations present. Allow them to soften with your exhale. Move your attention to your legs. Notice any tension or holding, and allow a gentle softening. Bring awareness to your hips and lower back, noticing any sensations without judgment, allowing comfort to emerge naturally. Continue up through your torso, your shoulders and arms, your neck, and finally your face and head. With each exhale, invite a quality of softening and letting go. Notice how your body feels now compared to when we started. Even this brief practice often creates noticeable shifts in physical tension. One meditation student shared how this practice transformed her sleep experience. I used to lie in bed mentally exhausted but physically wired. The body scan helped me discover I was literally holding onto the day's stress in my body. Learning to systematically release that tension became my pathway to sleep. The beauty of the body scan is its simplicity. It requires no special equipment, can be practiced in any sleep position, and can be adjusted to any length, from a quick 3-minute scan when you're already drowsy to a longer 20-minute practice on more restless nights. It's also perfectly complementary to the breath awareness practice we'll explore next, which addresses the mental dimension of sleep challenges. While physical tension can certainly keep us awake, often the bigger challenge is mental activity, the mind that refuses to quiet down when the lights go out. This is where mindful breathing becomes our greatest ally for sleep. The Buddha described breath awareness as a powerful method for calming both body and mind, calling it a refreshing dwelling place for attention, a description that perfectly captures its sleep-supporting qualities. What makes the breath particularly effective as a focus for pre-sleep mindfulness is its unique position at the intersection of our conscious and automatic systems. We can choose to control our breath, but it also continues effortlessly when we don't think about it. This creates a perfect bridge between our intentional effort and the surrendering quality needed for sleep. Let me share 3 specific breathing approaches that are especially helpful for sleep, each offering a slightly different doorway to mental settling. The first is the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which activates your parasympathetic, rest and digest nervous system. Here's how to practice it. Inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7. Then exhale completely through your mouth for a count of 8, making a gentle whooshing sound. The extended exhale is key. It signals to your body that you're safe and triggers the relaxation response. Start with just 4 cycles of this breath pattern. It's remarkable how quickly this can shift your mental and physical state. One insomniac described it as like finding the off switch for my racing thoughts. The slightly complex counting pattern also helps interrupt rumination by giving your mind a specific task to focus on. The second approach is simple breath counting, a practice found in many Buddhist traditions. As you lie comfortably in bed, bring attention to your natural breath without changing it. Count each complete breath cycle, inhale and exhale, from 1 to 10. Then start over. If you lose track, simply begin again at 1 without frustration. This technique works through gentle mental engagement that's just interesting enough to pull your attention away from rumination, yet simple enough to allow your mind to gradually wind down. It's like providing your mind with a soft landing pad rather than leaving it to spin in circles of worry or planning. The third approach is natural breath awareness, the simplest yet sometimes most challenging technique. Here, you simply rest your attention on the physical sensations of breathing, perhaps the feeling of air at your nostrils. the rising and falling of your chest, or the expansion and contraction of your abdomen. When your mind wanders, gently return awareness to these sensations. I like to think of these 3 techniques as providing your mind with landing gear for sleep. Just as an airplane needs to gradually descend before touching down, our minds need a gentle transition from the heights of daily activity to the ground of restful sleep. Breath awareness provides this landing path. Your body position for these practices matters. While traditional meditation often recommends an upright posture, for sleep purposes, practice in the position you typically fall asleep in. This creates a direct association between the practice and sleep onset. If you normally fall asleep on your side, feel free to practice breath awareness in that position. Some people experience anxiety when focusing on breath, finding that it makes their breathing feel unnatural or constrained. If this happens for you, try widening your attention to include your whole body breathing, or choose a different anchor for awareness like the feeling of your body resting on the mattress or gentle ambient sounds in your environment. The specific focus matters less than the quality of gentle, non-striving attention. Let's practice a short version of breath counting together. Settle comfortably and allow your breath to find its natural rhythm without control or manipulation. Begin counting each complete breath cycle from 1 to 5. Inhale, exhale. That's 1. Inhale, exhale. That's 2. Continuing at your own pace. If your mind wanders, simply begin again at 1 without judgment. Brief pause. Even this short practice often reveals how simple attention to breath can begin to settle the mental activity that keeps us awake. There's a natural calming quality to breath awareness that gently pulls us towards sleep without effortful striving. One meditation student who struggled with insomnia for years shared her experience. I used to dread going to bed because my mind would instantly become a chaos of worries and plans. Learning to rest my attention on my breath gave me an alternative to being swept away by thoughts. Some nights I fall asleep quickly now, and even when I don't, I'm no longer fighting with my mind. I have a place of refuge in my breath. The beauty of breath awareness is that it's always available, requires no special equipment, and can be practiced for any duration, from a minute or 2 when you're already drowsy to a longer session on more challenging nights. It pairs perfectly with the body scan we explored earlier and provides an excellent foundation for our next practice, mindfully letting go of the day's concerns. One of the most common obstacles to peaceful sleep is the mind's tendency to review the day's events or plan for tomorrow just as we're trying to drift off. The Buddhist tradition offers a beautiful perspective on this challenge through the concept of setting down the burden, the practice of intentionally releasing our mental carrying before rest. In the Bara Sutta, the Buddha speaks of the burden of our attachments and concerns, teaching that genuine ease comes not from solving every problem but from learning when to set down what we're carrying. This wisdom applies perfectly to sleep. We don't need to resolve every issue before we can rest. We simply need to learn the art of temporarily releasing our grip. The challenge is that our minds often act like conscientious employees working overtime. They want to keep processing unfinished business to protect us from forgetting important matters. This is why simply trying to force thoughts away rarely works. Instead, we need to give the mind permission to temporarily release its vigilance by creating clear cognitive boundaries around sleep time. Here's a 3-step practice for mindfully letting go of the day, which I've found tremendously helpful for those nights when the mind keeps rehearsing, reviewing, and planning. First, take a few moments to acknowledge what genuinely needs your attention. Rather than fighting against persistent thoughts, briefly note the specific concerns or tasks that your mind keeps flagging as important. You might mentally name them or even jot them in a bedside journal. Finish presentation. Call mom. Schedule dentist appointment. This acknowledges the mind's important signaling function while creating clarity about what's actually keeping you awake. Second, make a specific time commitment to address these matters tomorrow. Tell yourself, I'll think about this presentation tomorrow at 10 a.m. Or, I'll make these calls during my lunch break. This step is crucial. It assures your mind that you're not ignoring important matters, just postponing them to an appropriate time. The mind is much more willing to temporarily release concerns when it trusts they'll be addressed later. Third, practice an intentional release of these concerns for now, perhaps accompanied by a physical gesture like opening your hands, releasing a gentle exhale, or mentally placing these items in an imaginary container until morning. You might use a simple phrase like, I'm setting this down for now. All is well until morning. This practice honors the mind's protective function while creating healthy boundaries around sleep time. It's not about suppressing important thoughts but about assigning them to their proper time and place, which is generally not 11 p.m. in your bedroom. For persistent worries or planning thoughts that keep resurfacing despite this practice, some people find a worry journal helpful. Keep a small notebook by your bed specifically for capturing thoughts that refuse to settle. Writing them down can help externalize concerns, assuring your mind that they won't be forgotten and creating mental space for rest. The art of letting go before sleep involves recognizing that most issues look different in the morning light. The exhausted, middle-of-the-night mind is rarely the best problem solver. Learning to temporarily suspend our problem-solving efforts is not irresponsible, it's actually wise resource management. We serve tomorrow's challenges better by getting restorative sleep than by spinning on them through the night. A participant in our sleep and mindfulness workshop shared a lovely metaphor for this practice. She visualizes her mind as a busy kitchen at the end of a restaurant's evening service. Rather than trying to clean every pot and prepare the next day's menu while exhausted, she mentally covers the pots and turns off the kitchen lights, knowing she'll return in the morning better equipped to continue her work. Let's try a brief version of this practice together. Bring to mind something that's been occupying your thoughts recently, perhaps a task that needs completion or a situation you've been processing. Acknowledge it clearly. Yes, this matters and needs attention. Now, mentally assign it a specific time tomorrow when you'll give it your full focus. Finally, practice releasing it just for now with a gentle exhale. Perhaps visualizing yourself setting down a backpack or closing a book, using a phrase like, "I'm setting this down until tomorrow. All is well for now." Brief pause. Notice how this practice differs from suppression. We're not forcing thoughts away but creating a conscious container for them. There's a quality of wise discernment in recognizing what needs attention now versus what can wait until tomorrow. For those with particularly persistent planning minds, the physicist Richard Feynman developed an interesting variation of this practice. When mathematical problems kept him awake, he would deliberately choose an engaging but unrelated mental activity, like mentally walking through his neighborhood and noticing details of each house. This gave his active mind something to engage with that wasn't stimulating or problem-oriented, often allowing sleep to naturally arrive. Remember that this letting go practice builds with repetition. Your mind learns to trust that you will indeed address important matters at their assigned time, making it increasingly willing to release its grip during sleep hours. It's like training a puppy. Consistent, kind boundaries eventually create new, healthier patterns. This practice of mindfully releasing the day's concerns naturally prepares us for our next approach, working with the difficult emotions that often surface at bedtime and can significantly impact our sleep quality. Beyond the busy planning mind, one of the most challenging aspects of sleep difficulties involves the emotional dimension. Have you noticed how difficult emotions often choose bedtime to make their appearance? There's something about the quiet darkness that allows feelings we've been too busy to experience during the day to finally surface. The Buddhist understanding of emotions offers a particularly helpful perspective for these nighttime visitors. Instead of seeing emotions as part of our identity or as problems to be eliminated, Buddhist psychology views emotions as passing mental events, like weather patterns moving through the sky of awareness. This perspective creates a profound shift in how we relate to difficult feelings at bedtime. Rather than fighting against anxiety, frustration about not sleeping, or waves of sadness, all of which commonly arise at night, we can learn to meet these emotions with mindful awareness, neither suppressing them nor becoming entangled in their stories. This middle path approach often allows emotional energy to move through us more readily, creating conditions conducive to restful sleep. A powerful framework for working with difficult emotions comes from the contemporary Buddhist teacher Tara Brach, who developed the RAIN approach: recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. This process has been wonderfully effective for many struggling with emotionally charged sleep disruption. Let's explore how to apply this to common sleep-disrupting emotions. First, recognize what's happening. Simply name the emotion that's present. Anxiety is here, or frustration is present. This simple naming activates your prefrontal cortex, helping to reduce the emotion's intensity and creating a bit of space around the feeling. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. What seemed overwhelming becomes more manageable when clearly seen. Second, allow the emotion to be present without trying to fix, change, or eliminate it. This doesn't mean you want or like the feeling, just that you're acknowledging its current reality instead of wasting energy fighting against it. You might mentally note, "I consent to know this feeling," giving permission for it to be temporarily part of your experience. Third, investigate with kind curiosity. Bring gentle attention to how this emotion manifests in your body. Where do you feel it physically? What sensations accompany it? Is there tightness, heat, vibration? This step shifts you from being caught in the story about the emotion to directly experiencing its physical reality, which is often less overwhelming and more workable. Finally, nurture yourself with self-compassion. Place a gentle hand on your heart or offer yourself words of kindness. "This is really hard right now. May I be kind to myself in this difficulty?" This self-compassion activates your mammalian caregiving system, releasing oxytocin and other neurochemicals that counterbalance stress hormones and support relaxation. Let's explore how this applies to 3 common emotions that often disrupt sleep. For anxiety about the future, whether about tomorrow's challenges or broader life concerns, the RAIN practice helps us recognize that while the future-focused thoughts feel urgent at 2 a.m., they're actually just mental projections, not emergencies requiring immediate solution. By feeling how anxiety manifests in the body, often as chest tightness or racing heart, we create a pathway to be with the physical sensations rather than getting lost in cascading worry scenarios. The nurturing step is particularly important with anxiety, as self-criticism often accompanies nighttime worrying. For frustration about not sleeping, that increasingly familiar spiral of, "It's 3 a.m. and I'm still awake," recognition helps interrupt the counterproductive cycle where frustration about sleeplessness makes sleep even more elusive. The allowing step is crucial here, as fighting against wakefulness creates the physiological arousal that prevents sleep transition. Investigation often reveals how thoughts like, "I'll be a wreck tomorrow," create muscle tension and alertness. Self-compassion reminds us that everyone experiences occasional sleepless nights, and that rest, even without sleep, has significant restorative value. For sadness or loneliness, which often surface in the quiet vulnerability of night, the RAIN practice offers a way to hold these tender emotions with dignity rather than being overwhelmed by them. Recognition might sound like, "Ah, loneliness is visiting tonight." Investigation often reveals that beneath the initial heaviness of sadness are more nuanced feelings, perhaps tenderness, longing, or even love. The nurturing step involves treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a dear friend experiencing these emotions. What makes this approach particularly valuable for sleep is that it transforms the bedroom from an emotional battleground into a sanctuary for meeting all of our experience with compassionate awareness. We're no longer fighting against emotional states but learning to hold them in a larger field of kind presence, exactly the conditions that support the natural emergence of sleep. Let's practice a brief version of this approach together. Bring awareness to any emotion that's present for you right now. It could be subtle or strong, pleasant or challenging. Simply name this emotion: feeling calm, feeling restless, feeling curious, or whatever is true for you. Allow this feeling to be present without trying to change it. Notice where and how you experience this emotion in your body. What physical sensations accompany this feeling? Finally, offer yourself a moment of kindness, perhaps placing a hand on your heart or offering yourself a brief message of care. Brief pause. One meditation student who struggled with anxiety-related insomnia shared how this practice transformed her nights. "I used to panic when anxiety showed up at bedtime, thinking, 'Oh no, now I'll never sleep,' which of course made everything worse. Learning to simply be with the anxiety, to feel it in my body without believing all its catastrophic stories, changed everything. Sometimes the anxiety still visits, but it no longer ruins my night." The beauty of this emotional mindfulness practice is that it works whether or not you fall asleep quickly. Even during periods of wakefulness, this approach allows for emotional processing and nervous system regulation, creating what sleep researchers call restful wakefulness, that offers many of sleep's benefits even when unconsciousness eludes us. This capacity to be with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them is perhaps one of the most profound gifts of mindfulness practice, extending far beyond better sleep to touch every aspect of our waking lives as well. As we learn to meet nighttime emotions with kind awareness, we're simultaneously developing skills that serve us throughout our days. Now let's explore how to integrate these various practices into a cohesive mindful sleep ritual that can become your pathway to more restful nights. The practices we've explored are most powerful when woven together into a consistent pre-sleep ritual that signals to both body and mind that it's time to transition from the activity of day to the rest of night. just as parents create bedtime routines to help children make this transition. Adults benefit equally from intentional sleep rituals, perhaps even more so. Given our complex cognitive and emotional lives, the concept of ritual has deep significance in Buddhist tradition. Rituals aren't empty gestures but powerful ways of setting intention and creating conditions for transformation. A mindful sleep ritual works in much the same way. It's not just about external actions but about creating an internal shift from doing mode to being mode. Designing your personal sleep ritual involves selecting practices that resonate with your particular challenges and preferences. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. Someone whose sleep is primarily disrupted by physical tension might emphasize the body scan, while someone whose racing mind keeps them awake might focus more on breath awareness and the letting go practice. The key is consistency, not rigid adherence to rules, but a gentle commitment to showing up for these practices night after night, creating new neural pathways that eventually make the transition to sleep more automatic. Think of it as establishing a well-worn path through a meadow. The more often you walk it, the more easily your feet find their way, even in darkness. What might a complete mindful sleep ritual look like? Here's a potential sequence that integrates the practices we've explored. Begin with a brief symbolic action that marks the end of active day and the beginning of restful night, perhaps lighting a candle, playing a particular piece of calming music, or simply changing into comfortable sleepwear with full awareness. Then, take a few minutes for the letting go practice we explored, acknowledging what needs attention tomorrow and consciously setting it aside for now. This creates crucial mental space for rest. Next, settle into a comfortable position and practice the body scan, bringing gentle awareness to physical sensations and allowing tension to release with each exhale. This addresses the physical dimension of sleep preparation. Follow this with mindful breathing, using whichever approach feels most supportive, whether that's the 4-7-8 technique, breath counting, or simple breath awareness. This helps settle mental activity. Finally, if difficult emotions are present, apply the RAIN practice to meet these feelings with compassionate awareness rather than resistance or identification. The entire ritual might take as little as 10 to 15 minutes. Yet its impact on sleep quality can be profound. Over time, these practices become cues that signal your nervous system to begin the natural transition into sleep. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of suitable conditions for practice, and this wisdom applies equally to sleep. Your physical environment plays a crucial role in supporting mindful sleep transitions. Consider factors like room temperature. Slightly cool is optimal for most people. Minimal light, particularly blue light from screens, comfortable bedding, and relative quiet. Speaking of screens, the boundary between digital stimulation and sleep time deserves special attention. The Buddhist principle of clear separation between different activities applies well here. Consider creating a digital sunset, a period of at least 30 to 60 minutes before bed when screens are set aside. If that's not possible, using blue light filters and keeping screen content calming rather than stimulating can help minimize sleep disruption. For those who experience middle-of-night awakenings, these same practices can be applied in abbreviated form. A brief body scan, a few minutes of breath awareness, or the RAIN practice for any difficult emotions that arise can help you navigate these awakenings with less reactivity and often return to sleep more easily. One meditation student described how her mindful sleep ritual transformed not just her nights but her overall relationship with rest. Creating this ritual helped me shift from seeing bedtime as another task to check off to viewing it as a sacred transition, a time to honor the day's completion and prepare for the restoration of sleep. Even on nights when sleep is elusive, the ritual itself becomes a form of rest. Maintaining these practices through challenges requires both commitment and compassion. There will be nights when you're too exhausted to do the full ritual, when emotions feel too overwhelming, or when external circumstances disrupt your usual routine. On these nights, even a single mindful breath or a moment of kind self-acknowledgement carries the essence of the practice. Remember that the goal isn't perfect sleep every night, an unrealistic standard that creates its own suffering, but a wiser, more compassionate relationship with the entire spectrum of rest experiences, from deep sleep to peaceful wakefulness. This broader perspective is perhaps the greatest gift of bringing mindfulness to our nights. As we bring our exploration of mindfulness for better sleep to a close, let's gather the threads of what we've discovered together. We've explored 5 powerful approaches: the body scan for physical relaxation, mindful breathing for mental settling, letting go of the day's concerns, working with difficult emotions, and creating a cohesive sleep ritual. Each of these practices offers a doorway to more restful nights, not through forcing sleep but by creating conditions where sleep can naturally emerge. If you're feeling inspired to try these practices, I encourage you to begin with just one that particularly resonates with your sleep challenges. Perhaps the body scan if physical tension keeps you awake, breath awareness if mental activity is your primary obstacle, or the rain practice if emotional states typically disrupt your rest. Starting with a single practice builds confidence and momentum that naturally expands over time. It's worth acknowledging that improvements in sleep quality often unfold gradually rather than overnight. The first changes you might notice aren't necessarily more hours of sleep but a different quality to your rest experience, less struggle, more acceptance, greater periods of peaceful rest even during wakefulness. These subtle shifts are meaningful steps toward healthier sleep patterns. What I find most profound about the Buddhist approach to sleep is the fundamental shift from seeing sleep as something to achieve or optimize to recognizing it as a natural process to be allowed. This perspective transforms bedtime from a potential battleground to a sanctuary of mindful awareness. When we stop treating wakefulness as a problem to fix and instead meet it with compassionate presence, we discover what Buddhist practitioners have known for centuries, that genuine rest is available in many forms. Not just unconscious sleep. As meditation teacher Rodney Smith beautifully puts it, rest is not dependent on sleep, rest is dependent on our relationship to the moment. In our next episode, we'll explore mindfulness for chronic pain management, another area where Buddhist practices offer profound resources for working with challenging physical experiences. Like sleep difficulties, chronic pain asks us to navigate the complex relationship between body and mind with wisdom and compassion. Before we part, I'd like to offer a brief moment of restful awareness together. Wherever you are right now, allow your body to be comfortably supported. Take a gentle breath and notice the natural rhythm of your breathing for just a few cycles. Feel the weight of your body resting against chair, floor, or bed. Allow any tension to soften with your exhales. Notice that even in this brief pause, a quality of rest is available, a reminder that islands of peace are accessible throughout our days and nights. Sleep well, dear friends. May your nights be restful, your awakenings peaceful, and may you discover that the wisdom of mindfulness brings not just better sleep but a more wakeful appreciation for all dimensions of this precious life. Thank you for joining me in this exploration. Until next time, may you rest easy in body, mind, and heart.